Good evening to the good viewers of this program who are watching this program with us in the English language. As usual, YouTube is playing its games with us. So let me copy the link of this program, add it into our Telegram for anybody who wants to watch it live. That way I can also watch it live with you while I perform it so that we can see what's going on. In the Persian language, it wouldn't allow me to see the chats. So thank you and welcome to everyone who's going to be chatting in the text part of our live chat. I couldn't see any of it in the Persian one. Of course, they play games with us. And they also told us they're sending this one to a third party. I don't know what that means, but I guess it's going through a third party, whatever that is. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's go back to what we always do, which is share with you the resources that we're going to be talking about. We left off with al-Suraya being killed last time. So now we are going to continue where we left off. And we're going to move forward. So al-Suraya got killed, right? You can all see. When he got killed, he was killed by Al-Hassan bin Saleh, who ordered his death. After his death, they separated his head. You know, Islam, that's how Muslims are. You know, Muslims, when they kill you, they have to cut off your head, right? So they cut off his head. What they did is they took his head and they crucified his head, just like how Jesus was crucified. They crucified his head on the eastern side of Baghdad, and they crucified the rest of his body on the western part. The reason why the Abbasid did this is because they wanted to send a message to the Iranians who were trying to take back their land, that any of you who despise us and disobey us and go against us and want to commit such a atrocity of starting a war against us, and you want to take land that we've occupied away from us, we are going to do what we did to this guy to you. And we don't recognize you guys as Muslim anyway. I mean, you say the words that make you a Muslim doesn't really mean you're a Muslim. Not in the eyes of other Muslims who don't see you as a Muslim, because you're not an Arab, so you're not really a Muslim at the end of the day. You just pretend to be a Muslim. That's how Arabs look at you. Doesn't matter if you're from Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Iran, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, Azerbaijan, or anywhere else. You're not really a Muslim because you're not an Arab. Simple as that. Okay? You got Arabs and you got non-Arabs. That's how it is. So, all of this happened, right? And then, after the Abu Suraya's murder, was about 10 months. I mean, the guy, you know, you kill these guys according to these mullahs, these clergymen who write, you know. They kill the guy, and it takes 10 months. I mean, this guy wouldn't die, you know. They kept stabbing him. They cut his head. They crucified him. They would come back and they would see his mouth still talking. Talking. You know, it's crazy stuff going on. You know, non-stop crazy stuff. But anyway, let's move forward. Let's see what else happened. Certainly, there was a close relationship between the events of Abu Suraya and Zayd and Ibrahim. Okay, Zayd is one guy, Ibrahim is another. Abu Suraya is the dead guy, right? And the like of them from among the children of the Imam. Ooh, he had so many children, you know, because he was always busy doing pedophile incest. So he had children popping out left, right, center, left, right, center, you know, nonstop. I mean, the guy, he was a machine. You know, if he went into the porn industry, they would make millions because they don't need the machines that they use. They would just have him, and he never stops. I mean, 24/7. He just keeps going and going. The Energizer Bunny in the West owes him a lot of money, and the Duracell Bunny in England owes him a lot of money because they kept saying they keep going and going and going, but the real going and going and going was this guy from 1,400 years ago. He has all of them beat by a whole 1,400 years. He's been going and going and going. I mean, if you take him out of the grave now, he might still be going and going and going. Back to the story here. Back to the story. Okay. That is because many of them took part in it. In what? We don't know. But Zayd and Ibrahim were at the head of those who took part in it. But they never told us what is it. For they were entrusted with the authority over some Islamic countries. See, look. They were entrusted with authority over some Islamic countries. Ladies and gentlemen, I got to explain something to you. The word Arab comes out of the language of the Aramaic, not Arabic, Aramaic. Those who spoke Aramaic from long ago, they said that people that live in a desert are called Arab. That means if someone who spoke Aramaic came to visit United States and they went to the state of Arizona, they would call everybody who lives in Arizona Arab because you live in a desert. Hence, the people that are called Arab, they didn't give themselves a name. They're using a name given to them by other people other than them. Now, these Arabs invaded and took giant countries of the time. They took out the Persians, they took out the Byzantines, they continued to go westward in Africa and took out all the Berbers. They went into Spain and took Spain and all of these areas. They went into Iran at that time. The Persians, it was a bigger area than today. So you can say half of Pakistan, all of Afghanistan, all that Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, all those things above us, they all were part of us. So they took all that land and they didn't have a name. They went still with the same name they were called from the beginning, Arabs. And what they had was the Khilafat of the Bani Umayyad, replaced by Khilafat of the Abbasids. They're going by tribal name. They didn't even have a nation. It was just a bunch of land that was now unified as one, occupied under the tribal name of the person who is now the Khalif, the ruler of that land. It's one land. They don't even have a name for it. But yet, the clown who wrote this book and calls himself a clergyman, backed by the tops of the clergymen of Shia Islam, seemed to think at that time, okay, we're talking about 1,400 years ago, when that event that I just told you took place, that there were many Islamic countries. It's like me telling you I have one pen. And then I tell you that Zayd and Ibrahim, they had authority and they are the leaders of many pens of mine. But I only have one. How did I get many pens out of one pen? That is what this guy just did. So you can tell by what he wrote that it's all lies. Neither that Zayd or that Ibrahim had authority over anything. Because there weren't many countries. There was one. And they couldn't even name it. A bunch of rejects who can't name a country have now taken over territories that they rule over. And those territories have turned into one because it's under one rulership. It's not like the Abbasid or the Umayyads came along and said, my son, you take this portion, and my other son, you take that portion, and my other son, you take that portion. No, you got one guy ruling everything. But of course, the mullahs that write and are now in charge of Islamic Republic of Iran, they're too dumb to understand history. They've never read it. They've never gone to any schooling. But they claim to be doctors. And they're running Iran into the ground like they ran their religion into the ground. And you're witnessing how they run their religion into the ground. Imagine how they're running a whole entire country into the ground with their 44-year genocide. Back to the story. Several reports. Okay, now we go to several reports. There is reports. He's going to tell us about reports. Several reports mentioned concerning that Ibrahim met when his movement failed and came to an end. Okay, who did he meet? The reports are as follows. Okay, he's going to give us the reports. Maybe he'll answer our questions. The first one, when Abu al-Saraya appointed him as a governor over Yemen, this guy still thinks that Yemen is a city. He doesn't realize Yemen is a whole entire country. But he's still going with the thought process that Yemen is a city. Okay? He went to it, and its people yielded to him, you know. And after a short battle took place between the two parties, there was two parties now. They first yielded to him, they all stood back. And now all of a sudden we have two parties. And then he doesn't tell us the rest. Where's the rest? The second one. He was an emir. You know, emir is like a king of the Holy Mecca. So we had a governor, we have emir, and we have a king, and we have a khalif. Just like a king too. So how many people are in charge of this Holy Mecca now? But anyway, we have all of these people. When he heard of Abu al-Suraya, he appeared in Mecca. I mean, these guys, they have a time machine, you know, like in Back in the Future, they have a time machine. They just press the buttons and boom, they show up wherever they want. Okay. So he appeared in Mecca. Which year? 201 AH. He summoned the people to himself. He called them over. They all came like a bunch of goats. You know, they just showed up. A great deal of them responded to him. You see, they all just showed up like a goat. He just showed up and he called everybody, and they didn't ask, who's this guy? Where did he come from? No, they just show up. So he undertook the authority there and killed many people. Why would you kill them? They just came to you. He killed many people of those who maintained the view of the Abbasids. I mean, he just said majority of people came to him, but now he said he killed many people. So which is it? Did the majority come to you, or did you kill the majority? Because you can't have both. They're opposite of each other. He performed Hajj in that year. Okay. He was the first Alawi. Again with the Alawis. Ladies and gentlemen, let's explain this again. Alawis believe that their God, Allah, the statue, made a mistake, sent Jibreel, his archangel messenger, And he made a mistake and picked a 54-year-old man named Ghatha Muhammad, you know, the human feces, over a 7-year-old boy. So Jibreel didn't know the difference between a 7-year-old kid and a 54-year-old man, right? He didn't know the difference, obviously. He picked him, brought him, and now all of a sudden, some say maybe he was 40. Fine, we'll go with 40. We'll give him a 14-year discount, okay? He didn't know the difference between a 40-year-old man and a 7-year-old kid. You have to be fair here. So human feces was as small as a 7-year-old kid, I guess. I don't know. You know, he walked around like a little baby. Hello, everybody, and had to look up like this, you know. Anyway, they say after the death of human feces, Muhammad, Ali became their real prophet, and that with his death, that came to an end of prophethood. There is nothing after him. They believe Ali is the representative of God, this Allah that the Muslims have, on earth. He is the living, he's the breathing God, prophet on earth. I mean, they're trying to steal it from Jesus Christ. But nevertheless, that's what the Alavis believe in. They don't believe in all this garbage imamat business that the Shia Ithna Ashari believe. They don't believe in Hassan and Hussein, Ali and Muhammad, Jafar and Musa. They don't believe in all this garbage. So what is an Alavi doing here? Why every time this guy has to go and pick an Alavi and not give the name, but throw the guy's sect into this? And Alavis don't even perform Hajj. That's the other part. Alavis don't perform Hajj because, number one, Saudi won't give them a visa. Number two, nobody accepts them as a Muslim. The Shias don't accept them. The Sunnis don't accept them. So they can't go. I mean, only a Muslim can go to Hajj. Even the roads tell you, you can Google it and you'll see. They'll say Muslims this way with an arrow, non-Muslims that way with an arrow. So an Alavi is not Muslim according to the Shia Ithna Asharis. An Alavi is not a Muslim according to the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'at. So where is this Alavi going to get the permission to enter Mecca in modern day today? But anyway, in this story, the Alavi went and he performed Hajj that year. As a result of Al-Ma'mun, the leader of the Banu Abbasids of the time, the Khalif of the time, meaning the king of the time, he was afraid of this Alawi guy. So my question is, if the guy is so afraid of him, why didn't this Alawi guy go and take over the whole Islamic Ummah and force everyone to become Alawi like him? You know, the Ma'mun's already afraid of him. It should be easy now. Back to the rest of the story here. So he was afraid of him. So he deceived. He lied to him. Deceived the Arab through appointing him as a ruler in Yemen. Why is everyone becoming a ruler in Yemen? What's going on with this Yemen business? Other than him stealing this from Iranians, trying to get back Iranian lands from the Arabs, and he's hijacking the story, and he's working really hard trying to fix it somehow to make it sound like this was about the Shia Ithna Asharis. And he has to find people that he can't even give a name to because he'll forget a name, so he just gives them their sect titles. The Alawi guy came, okay? And he made him ruler. When Ibrahim went to Sana'a, he went to another part of a desert, he was deceived. And he was taken prisoner of war by Ibn Faham. Now, where are the fathers of both of these guys? Musa al-Kazim. Isn't he Bab al-Hawaij, the gate of whatever needs you have? Why didn't they call him? They say you can call the imams right now, today. After they've already died for 1,000 years, you can call them today and they will hear you and they will respond and help you. Why didn't he call him when the guy was alive and say, help me? According to Shia Ashari traditions, if you call him out, the wind will take your voice and it will reach the guy's ear. So why didn't they yell and say, Father, help me? So they don't get deceived. Questions that only Shias can answer, but they don't have an answer. Third, he was in Mecca when Abu al-Saraya was killed. When he heard of that, he went to Yemen and controlled many areas of it, summoned the people to himself. Fourth, he dominated the Yemen but his government included the coast, the coastal waters and the eastern top of Yemen. He led the people to Hajj during the time when al-Ma'mun delivered a speech amongst his people at the holy shrine. Ladies and gentlemen, if you go to Iran and go to a city in Iran called Isfahan, you will see that the Abbasid kingdoms of Iran, not to be mistaken with the Abbasid caliphs of the Arabs, they're two different. I know they sound the same. We're saying Abbas, but one is the kingdom of the Abbasid dynasty, which came about 1,000 years later. And the other one is the Abbasid Khilafat of the Arabs, which was about 1,000 years earlier. Now, during the 1,000-year later part of the dynasty of the Abbasid kingdoms of Iran, you will find in their capital city of that time, which was Isfahan, that they have a mosque built, which is called Masjid Imam. And there is a plaque there, if you ever go, it will say, this is the first mosque in history that is built with a dome, a shrine. They didn't have them before this. Every mosque before this had a flat roof, like the Kaaba. How in the world did these guys get a shrine and a dome 1,000 years earlier than the first ever dome was created? That's another question. So we know that there is a lie right here, the holy shrine. And then he invoked Allah for al-Ma'mun and his hair, the apparent Imam Rava, another one of the Musa's kids. Fifth, he warred against al-Ma'mun. He warred against al-Ma'mun. Okay. His army was defeated. He went to Mecca. Why are they going from Yemen to Mecca, from Mecca to Yemen? What's the point? Anyway, he went to Mecca. When al-Ma'mun went to Baghdad, so hold on a second. Al-Ma'mun beat him in Yemen, but then they both ran away from Yemen. One went to Mecca, and the other one followed him to Mecca and bypassed him in Mecca and went to Baghdad. Okay. Ibrahim went to him. Went to who? And gave him security. In other words, Ibrahim went to Mecca, but Ma'mun went to Baghdad. So now Ibrahim, who went to Mecca, decided he's going to follow Ma'mun to Baghdad, okay? And then in Baghdad, he's going to give Ma'mun security. But they were both fighting each other in Yemen. Nothing they say makes any sense. You could replace the names with chicken and rooster, and still the story would be the same. There is no diff. Okay, next one. Some other reports, which have been mentioned in respect with him, most probably Ibrahim conquered the Mecca and controlled it. His determination collapsed when the movement of Abu al-Surayya failed, so he asked al-Ma'mun for security. I mean, a second ago, he gave Ma'mun security, but now he's asking Ma'mun for security. They don't even know what they're saying. I mean, you have to be on drugs to have this make sense for you. Don't do drugs, by the way. Don't do drugs. Stay away from drugs. Not good for you. And Ma'mun, and asked him for security. And he gave it to him. I mean, they were at war with each other. Why are they giving each other security? I mean, you would kill your enemy. What is going on here? I don't even think he understands what he's writing. He's just writing for the sake of writing, make it a book. And this is supposedly the biggest book, the thickest book about the biography of the life of Musa al-Kazim, the sadistic serial killer. So now, he conquered it. The determination collapsed, asked Ma'mun for security, and he gave it to him. The thing that confirms this is that Ali al-Rida, the other kid of Musa al-Kazim, interceded for al-Ma'mun in Khurasan. I mean, they were in Baghdad, which is modern-day Iraq. And then they ended up on the other end of Iran in Khurasan. Time machine. I mean, you press the buttons and you just magically show up wherever you want. Time machine. They had time machines, ladies and gentlemen. They just, they go from one city, one country to another country, to this city, to that city. They jump over a bunch of provinces. It's okay, no problem. They just do it, that's back in the... And then the other problem here is Rida is giving security by interceding for al-Ma'mun, who is killing the army of Ibrahim, who happens to be the brother of Rida. So it's like, ladies and gentlemen, you are in a war with somebody that you don't like. And that person also doesn't like you. And now you're about to kill that person that you don't like. But your brother will come along and ask you to forgive and forget and stop killing your own enemy. And you, on behalf of your brother, stop killing your enemy, who still has no problems killing you. And no one has come on your behalf to ask him not to kill you, like your brother came to you and asked you not to kill your enemy. That is what they've told us. Except they also added that they used the time machine to jump from one place to another, to another, to another. The death of Ibrahim. That pure guy, because they have to compete with Jesus, so they have to all be pure. All of them are deities. He died in Baghdad in the year 213 AH. Okay? And it was said in the year 210 AH by 67 biographers who unanimously agreed that he, Ibrahim, died of poison. I mean, my question is, how did they know 3 years prior to his death that he was going to die of poison, and they all got it right together? And there were 67 of them. Are they like, did they go to the same school that Nostradamus went to? And they can all foresee the future? Like, what is happening here? If you can explain it to me, please do, because it makes no sense. 3 years before, they already know about his death. And they all knew how he was going to die. And there's 67 of them. How did they all find out and he didn't find out? And they were writing his biography, which means they were around him. I mean, 67 people that are around you, day in, day out, night in, night out. You can't even go to the toilet without these 67 people being outside your door, listening to what you're doing in there and asking you questions. How big was it? How round was it? How brown was it? And you have to answer their question. They're writing your autobiography. Come on now. I mean, it's not like they had phones. Yes, they had the time machine, but it doesn't say they had cell phones and you weren't on some social media sites where you take selfies of yourself, and every time you want to eat your food, you take a selfie of your food. And I mean, they weren't doing that. So these 67 people, they were around him 24/7, and all of them knew, but he didn't know. Man. And then the people, let's see what happened after he got poisoned. And they all knew that the guy who poisoned them was also al-Ma'mun. The Khalif of the time was the guy who poisoned them. Okay. Ibn al-Samak, at the age of 68. I mean, they couldn't find the young guy. They had to go and find the old man, lowered him into the grave, and recited. And Imam al-Murtada died of poison. Oh my God, we got another dead one. I mean, they're all dying of poison. And the time has folded. Virtues and science. I mean, all of them had science. Come on now. I mean, it's just very odd that they all had the science 1,200 years ago, and then some magician came along and went abracadabra, pak, and all the science just disappeared and got hidden. And then 1,200 years later, all the Europeans and all the people living in the United States, they found all these science. I mean, Alexander Graham Bell came and he found the phone. The Wright brothers came and they brought the science of flight, right? Everybody came along and they added something. Thomas Jefferson, like everybody, you know, you name it, everybody brought something, you know. Declaration for peace and, you know, freedom and this and that. And this one came with something else. And, you know, in every field of science came out, and they were all found in Europe or in the United States. But, I mean, they couldn't have done it without these guys. I mean, they did it 1,200 years ago. Now, there's no proof of it, but that's besides the point. I mean, if you tell them to show the proof, you become an Islamophobe, you know? How dare you tell them to show you the proof? They just have to write it in a book and say, this is how it was, and you are supposed to accept it, you know, because, you know, they had the science, of course. He died wrong. You know, he died very wrong. He was supposed to die falling on his back, and he fell on his front. You know, he just died wrong. Okay? At al-Zawara, just as his grandfather Hussein died wrong too. I mean, he died wrong too. Hussein, on the day of the battle, he was using glue to rip off his body hairs because, as he told to his family members, when he dies, those Huriain, those half-breeds between angels and humans that are in the air inside of heaven, they're waiting with their mouth drooling like a dog so that he can go join them so he can have his sex business. So they're all dying the wrong way like Hussein. Okay, they're all dying the wrong way. In Karbala, okay? So now we know Al-Murtada died in Karbala, okay? And we know that Ibrahim died in where? Baghdad, right? Continue. The yellow sun laminated over his death. Hold on, I got to tell you guys something. I've said it before. Ali, the guy who is the cousin of the Prophet of Islam, according to Shia Islam, they claim that he's the father of the earth, this earth, the one you're living on. And I made the claim that as long as he gets to be the father of the earth, I am the father of the sun, because I am greater than the Ali that was the father of the earth. Hence, I have to have a bigger son. So my son is apparently the sun. And I speak to the sun. And the sun told me everything about whatever the sun has done from the beginning of time till now. And the sun has told me to tell you guys that on the day of this guy's death, the sun decided not to come out. If you're asking, what do you mean? Well, according to the book of Allah, that Quran that Allah, the idol, wrote by his own pen, he says that the man with the two horns went until he found the setting place for the sun. And it was a small puddle of water, not the sea, not the ocean, not a gulf, not a lake, not a river, not a bay. No. We're talking about a little spring, a tiny little spring, okay? The sun goes into a tiny little spring. And then this guy with the two horns, they call him Zulqarnain, he continued, okay? He continued to go his path, and he reached an area from where the sun comes out. And the best part is, at both areas, there are civilizations that live there. So the sun has neighbors on this earth. I mean, the sun goes up like this in the air, and then it comes back into a hole into this earth, boop, and then it comes out the other hole out of the other side of this earth like this, and then goes right back up again and comes back down into the other hole and goes boop. Science. I mean, the science, man. This is the family of science. How dare you say the sun does not go into the earth? I have it on good authority. The sun does go into the earth. And then, according to the traditions of the Prophet of Islam, that human feces, Khatam, Muhammad as they want to call him, when the sun disappears, it goes under the throne of this But Allah, this, idol they call Allah. And then Allah also has under his throne a giant rooster whose feet are in the air and his head is under the throne. And he's that big, And the sun has to compete with space with this rooster, because at the end of the day, you can't be in the same space when there's such a big thing and you are such a big thing, because the sun is big. If you don't know, it's a big thing. I don't know how he squeezes his way into this little hole spring, but I guess he does it one way or another, I've never asked them about that question, so I can't give you guys a definitive answer. But I know it goes in a hole, that's for sure, The Islamic sun goes into a hole. That's the one that's my son, I don't mean son as in like son up there, because he is the son, but he's my son, like a biological type son, like how the earth was the son of Ali, You have to be a Muslim to understand. If you're not a Muslim, you're not going to. I mean, you first, you got to be Muslim. And then you can become an ex-Muslim after. But first you have to be Muslim to understand what I'm trying to tell you. And then you can become an ex-Muslim again, right? So because you guys are not Muslim, you're never going to understand. I mean, it's just above your pay grade at this point. So his pure body was buried beside his father. Okay? Imam Musa al-Kazim came. I mean, that is his father. His father is Imam Musa al-Kazim. The guy's alive, but his son is dead. And his son was buried beside his father, who's alive. Al-Sayyid al-Arraji has said, Ibrahim was buried at Al-Qadifa, and there is a manifest dome over him. Another dome was created 1,000 years before domes were even created. And also, I mean, like a zombie. He came back alive. He came out of the grave when he was buried in Baghdad. And now he's reburied in al-Qadifa. Remember that. That's two places that this guy, Ibrahim, is buried, right? The people visiting his grave ask for blessings of it. I mean, people come there to ask him for blessings. This is the guy who 3 years before he died, everybody knew he was going to die from poison and he couldn't save himself. But now he's going to give you blessings. He couldn't save himself. How is he going to save you? Idol worship. That's all it is. Worship this deity. Worship that deity. We'll just write some junk about this one. We won't even fact check what we wrote. I mean, we won't even think about what we wrote in sentence above. The general populace, the A'immah, meaning the Ummat, meaning the community, claimed that his grave belongs to Al-Murtada, Alim al-Huda. They say that the Ibrahim guy, his grave belongs to Al-Murtada. So Al-Murtada was buried in Karbala, and now he's buried in Al-Qadifiya. Okay, so both of them are zombies. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. This is an imagination. And they're imagining. They have no facts. The whole of Islam is about imagination. I mean, I can imagine too. Yesterday, you guys don't know, I went and I visited Pluto. The people of Pluto, they served me a very nice dish of cow. They have special cows over there. The cows in Pluto, they fly. I'm telling you, man, you got to go and try it one day, okay? But you got to go at the right time. If you don't go at the right time, those people will not be there because they're traveling. And they travel with their cows, okay? Also, the cows over there, they have big fur. Not like the cows over here who have small fur. They have big fur. And they have 16 horns. Each horn is on top of another horn. You guys got to go and see it. It's full of imagination. Imagination. Imagination is awesome. For Al-Murtada was carried to the holy heart and buried beside his brother and his father according to unanimous agreements. So he was buried in Karbala. He's buried in Har. He's buried in Al-Ghafida, or whatever the hell that name was. I mean, the guy, he's a zombie too. He just keeps coming out. You kill him, he comes out. You kill him again in another place, and you kill him again. A lot of killing going on. Have you noticed? Agreement of the religious scholars. Okay. One who was buried there is also Ibrahim, al-Murtada, al-Kazim. So now Ibrahim and Murtada are now one person. And he's going to explain that now. Number 3, Ibrahim, the youngest. Because, I mean, he had so many kids, he couldn't remember what the names were. So then they became duplicates. We had Ibrahim the older, the Ibrahim the younger, and all the names. Like, you know, he just took their sisters and made them write him, and then he wrote them, and then a few months later she was pregnant, and then the next thing you know, pop, a baby pops out, and that's it. Now he has to give him a name because that's his kid. He was given the nickname Al-Murtada. Who? Ibrahim the youngest. Al-Murtada, he was the youngest of the children of his father, okay? His mother was a Nubian. Nubian meaning like black from Africa. Black from Africa means sex slave. Not a real wife, a sex slave. You know, slave that you buy with money for only the purpose of you raping it and calling it sex. Okay? And her name was Najiya. I'm wondering how she got the Arab name. I mean, I remember when we covered Hussein and Ali were beating the crap out of the poor Iranian girls, telling them they have to have Arab names. And if they don't take the Arab names, they would beat them to death. I imagine they were doing the same over here, a few generations later. Al-Abdali, a genealogist. I mean, they had genealogists back then. I'm telling you, they had all the sciences. Sciences that we just have now today, they all existed back then. Come on, man, they're genealogists. What, you think only United States has genealogists? No, 1,200 years ago, they were already with all these doctorates. You know, they had the doctorates from the University of the back of my ASS. That's where they went and they got their university doctorates from. They had a genealogist back. As said, Ibrahim the youngest, al-Kazim's son, was a learned and worshipful. He was a learned man. He knew all the sciences. You can tell you chemistry like nobody else. He knew the martial arts better than the people that came up with it. He knew about navigation better than today's GPSs. The radar couldn't even hold his camel urine. I mean, there was so much knowledge. Man, you talk about astronauts. These guys, they clicked their feet together like Dorothy, and they just took off, man. Come on, you don't know. These guys had the knowledge. They were learned. Learn it, I tell you. Learn it. I mean, we see it right here. He was not Abu Suraya's companion. No, he was not. He was not. Rather, he was the brother of Ibrahim the older. 72 some sources. He doesn't know if it's 72 or some sources or more than 72, less than 70. He doesn't know. 72 some sources have mentioned that he appeared in Yemen during the days of Abu al-Suraya. So he was not a companion, but he showed up to where al-Suraya was. And he is the younger brother of the older brother who was there fighting with al-Suraya. And at sometimes al-Suraya was killing him. And at other times, others were killing the other people. And he was not being killed by al-Suraya. It's just killing business, you know, just change the names around whenever you feel like it. They're all zombies anyway. You can't kill the zombie. They're all okay. He was the grandfather of Al-Murtada. Man, a second ago, Al-Murtada was his older brother. Al-Murtada and Ibrahim the older were the same guy. Now, he, the youngest, is the grandfather of Al-Murtada and Rida and the noble Musavis. Musavis is the last name for people who are the descendants of this Musa. 74, this is what we have found in his biography. I mean, the guy had biographies. He was buried in Karbala. We're back to Karbala. 6 cubits behind the grave of his grandfather Hussein. 75. It was said that he died in the eastern part of Baghdad. I mean, Karbala is one city. Baghdad is another city. There are multiple cities in between these two cities. So did he die in Karbala or did he die in eastern Baghdad? But, you know, back in those days, you don't know this. Let me tell you. Musa was a giant. Okay, he was 1,400 feet tall, you know. And his kids, each one of them were giants. Each one of them was 1,000,000 feet tall. I mean, they were tall, man, tall. That's why, you need 6 cubits. They were tall, okay? And when they died, they fell into multiple cities, Some people, they went around his knee and they were like, oh, we know whose knee this is. Others went around his elbow, and that's why, they had so many names. Mu'tada, Ibrahim. That's the only way to explain the garbage that they wrote here. And then what happened? Tell us the rest. Tell us the rest. Tell us the rest. It was said that he died in the eastern part of Baghdad, and he was buried in a cemetery of Babra. That's the name of the cemetery, Babra. Ladies and gentlemen, I spoke for the Iranians up to this point. Hence, I got to speak for you up to the same point. That way, next week, when we cover part 15, we'll cover the same material for both, so one will not be ahead of the other. If you like what you're learning here, if you're being enlightened about the foolishness of the Shia Ithna Ashari sect, take your wonderful finger, click on your phone, and hit the subscribe button. Join us. Become part of our group. Become part of the members of this channel. The more people we get to become members, the more we can force the bots of YouTube to promote our channel. The more we get promoted, the more people can open their eyes and see the foolishness of this religion so they won't fall for it. Your kids are being targeted. They want them to become Muslim. Those who are part of the globalist regime have been bringing in illegal migrants from Muslim countries into your Western countries. The aim is to brainwash your kids when they go to school, when they're in the streets, when they're with their friends. The aim is for you to think that Muslims are people of peace, but as you can see, all they talk about is death, and they can't even get their facts straight, where the person died, and it looks like everywhere the guy goes, he dies over and over and over and over again, like as if they all have 9 lives like cats. It's time to put them to a stop. Between the Persian and the English language, there's over 14,000 people who see this program on a weekly basis. It's time that you do your part. Click on the subscribe button, join us, and promote it. Don't forget to also like the program after it's done. Write comments under the program after it's done. Click on our link tree. Go ahead and join us on all the social media places that I'm on so that we can make our voices on those places stronger. If they ever close down my account here, I will let you know through my other social media apps what our new channel is so that you can all join us. So tomorrow we will be having a special guest that we were supposed to have last week, but unfortunately, due to time constraint for our guest, she couldn't make it last week, and she will be on our channel this week, which is tomorrow in the afternoon. So we will be having a special program. Do join us. We are looking forward to having you in our program tomorrow. If you're an English speaker, you will enjoy that program. It's a very nice program. So until tomorrow, I leave you in the hands of Jesus. God bless.